Finally tonight, a look at some of the backstory to this year's raucous political season. Just as it brought to the surface tensions and disaffection within the Republican Party, so too have divisions in the Democratic Party revealed themselves. Author and historian Thomas Frank explores all this in his latest book, Listen Liberal. I sat down with Frank recently in our studio. Thomas Frank, welcome to the program.
It's good to be here, Judy.
And we should say the subtitle is Whatever Happened to the Party of the People. You are talking about the Democrats, but just before we talk about what you think is wrong with the Democratic Party now, when was the last time you thought the Democratic Party was doing what it was supposed to do?
Well, there's still a lot of good Democrats out there. Democrats that get the seal of approval from me, they get 5 stars. There's plenty of Democrats that I approve of, and I'll say I enthusiastically voted for President Obama back in 2008. So, but on the other hand, I think that the party has really abandoned its dedication to working class Americans beginning in the 1970s and has progressively abandoned it more and more and more. That sort of traditional Democratic mission.
I mean, you're hard in your book. You're pretty hard on President Obama and not fulfilling what you argue was the promise of his presidency. You're hard on both of the Clintons, both Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton. But you also make the striking point that the inequality that we have in this country is something that they think is a good thing?
Well, it's something that I wouldn't say that. Barack Obama called it what did he call it? The overriding challenge of our time. He has a way of putting it and when he speaks about it in this very eloquent manner, he makes it clear that this is something he deplores, something that he that he finds shocking. However, the Democratic Party, the sort of leadership faction of the Democratic Party, isn't really at their core bothered by inequality. They think that to a certain degree it reflects the way things ought to be. This is because the Democratic Party isn't, the leadership of the Democratic Party is not who we think they are. It's a different group of people serving a different agenda than than their brand identity tells us they are.
And you describe them as pretty much the opposite of the working class, the blue collar workers in this country.
That's not who they're interested in anymore. I mean, once upon a time, you say that Franklin Roosevelt or Lyndon Johnson or something like that. Yes, absolutely. That's what the Democratic Party was about. They were about the middle class of this country. Today, they are about the professional, managerial, highly educated, white-collar, affluent, suburban class. That's who they identify with. That's who they've sort of developed this enormous literature talking about how this class of people is at the pinnacle of history. This is also the class that they themselves are drawn from. They talk about these people all the time, and they see that this group of winners is the ultimate, the sort of #1 Democratic constituency. They think that class of people deserves to be where they are, that their status is something that they have earned.
It's a pretty harsh criticism. I mean, you're basically saying that the leadership of the Democratic Party, Silicon Valley, the academics, the folks on Wall Street who are Democrats, really don't care about the working class.
Yes. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. The more shocking thing is that the Democrats basically are a party that identifies itself with Wall Street, and that identifies itself with Silicon Valley, and that identifies itself with Big Pharma, with these industries that they are forever talking about, and saluting because they're so creative, they're so innovative. This is where these sort of these knowledge-based industries, where the kind of professionals that Democrats see themselves as representing, this is where those kind of people are found. And so they look at Wall Street and they don't see this kind of colossal villain, or the way, say, someone like Franklin Roosevelt would have understood Wall Street. Instead, they see classmates. They see their peers. They have a really difficult time bringing this industry to heel, or making sure that the rule of law applies to this industry.
And you end the book, Thomas Frank, on a pretty pessimistic note, because you say until the leaders in the Democratic Party understand the role they've played in bringing things to this place, things aren't going to get better.
Yes, that's exactly right. I mean, because it's clear that the Republican Party, it's clear from my point of view, I should say, that the Republican Party, with its dedication to markets and its philosophy of entrepreneurs, is not really interested in inequality. But what's shocking is when you realize that the Democrats themselves aren't really interested in it either. That the kind of liberalism that you see in the Democratic Party is a liberalism of the rich. That it's the liberalism of the top 10% of the income distribution, of a kind of a tiny swath of Americans who've actually done very well in the era of inequality. And that's shocking once you realize that.
What are the implications of this for this year's election?
Well, we have a contest now that's basically down to Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton. And between those two, on the matter of inequality, one of them is really bad and one of them is a lot less bad, and that's where we're left. It's the sort of same situation that we've been in for so many years. No, I don't think there's an easy way out this year, and I think that the public is going to get, these problems are going to get worse. Inequality is going to get worse. The situation of working people is going to get worse. And you're going to see more public frustration and more public anger and more Bernie Sanders down the road and more, unfortunately, I'm sorry to say, more Donald Trumps as well.
It's a provocative book. Listen, liberal, whatever happened to the party of the people? Thomas Frank, thank you very much.
Well, thank you for having me.